The sound of laughter echoed through the marble halls of Kensington Industries, one of New York's biggest tech empires. At the center of that world stood a woman of steel, style, and success. A self-made billionaire who built her fortune from nothing but ambition and sleepless nights. To her employees, she was a legend. To her competitors, she was a storm. But to her 7-year-old son, she was just. It was a rare Friday morning when Evelyn decided to bring Liam to the office, a way to spend time together after missing his school play the night before. He wore a tiny suit, his golden hair combed to one side, clutching his superhero backpack like a treasure. As Evelyn was in a meeting, Liam wandered into the hallway, curious, exploring, full of questions about every shining button and blinking light. That's when it happened. The janitor, a quiet man in his 50s with tired eyes and a kind smile, saw Liam standing near the freshly mopped floor right where a spill of cleaning chemicals had just made it dangerously slippery. "Hey, buddy, careful," Michael said, rushing forward. But before he could explain, Liam's small foot slipped. Michael reached out instinctively, grabbing the boy's arm to steady him before he fell. Just then, Evelyn stepped out of the boardroom. And what she saw stopped her heart. Her son, her world, being held by a janitor she barely knew. "What are you doing?" she screamed, pulling Liam away. Michael stammered, "Ma'am, he was about to." "I don't want to hear it." Evelyn's voice cut like a blade. "You touched my son." "Security." Within minutes, guards escorted Michael out, his face pale and pleading. Liam tried to speak up. "Mom, he was just helping," but Evelyn was too furious to listen. In her mind, she'd just protected her child. By noon, Michael's access badge was deactivated. His 15-year service to the company ended with a single misunderstanding. 2 days later, Evelyn noticed Liam wasn't his usual energetic self. He was quiet, tired, and unusually pale. She assumed it was the stress of the incident until he collapsed while playing in the living room. Panic surged. She rushed him to the hospital. Hours later, she sat in the cold waiting room, her hands trembling as doctors ran tests. When the results came back, her world stopped again, but for a very different reason. Liam had a one that had gone unnoticed. The doctor explained gently, "It's early, but we need an MRI and treatment immediately." The good news is, it's been caught before it grew worse. Evelyn frowned, confused. "Caught? How?" The doctor turned the monitor toward her. "We noticed slight swelling in his left wrist and older bruise that triggered the imaging." "When did he hurt it?" That's when Evelyn remembered, the day at the office. The moment Michael had grabbed Liam's arm to stop his fall. If he hadn't, Liam would have hit his head on the marble floor, and the injury could have been fatal. She felt her chest tighten with guilt. Her rage had blinded her. The man she'd fired wasn't a threat, he was a hero. The next morning, Evelyn did something her pride had never allowed before. She drove to a small apartment complex on the east side of town, where she found Michael sitting outside with a cup of coffee and a folded eviction notice. When he saw her, he stood slowly, unsure what to say. "Michael," she began softly, her voice breaking. "I came to say I was wrong." He looked away, the hurt still fresh. "I fired you for protecting my son," she continued, tears gathering in her eyes. "Because of you, they found something that might have saved his life." She handed him a white envelope. Inside was a check. Not a severance, not hush money, but something more. "This isn't charity," she said. "It's gratitude. And an offer. I want you back, not as a janitor, but as head of staff. Full benefits, housing, everything you need." Michael shook his head, speechless. "Ma'am, I don't know what to say." Evelyn smiled through tears. "Say you'll forgive me." He hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Ma'am, I already did." Weeks passed. Liam's surgery went well, the tumor removed successfully. He recovered faster than expected, and his first request after being discharged made Evelyn laugh through her tears. "Can we visit Mr. Michael?" I made him a thank you card. When they arrived, Michael was back at the company, his nameplate gleaming on his new office door. He knelt down to Liam's level, smiling. Liam handed him the handmade card. On the front was a stick figure drawing of Michael holding his hand. Inside, it read, "Thank you for catching me when Mom didn't see." Michael's eyes welled up. Evelyn stood behind her son, watching, humbled, changed. She had spent her life building a company that made people's lives easier, but it took one janitor's simple act of kindness to remind her what really mattered. Months later, Kensington Industries launched a new employee program called offering scholarships, housing support, and recognition for unsung workers across all branches. And at the annual company gala, Evelyn told the story publicly. "Power isn't in the corner office," she said to a silent audience. "It's in the moments we choose compassion over pride. I fired a man for touching my son when in truth, he was saving him. Sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who hold us up the most." That night, Evelyn looked out at the crowd, employees of every rank standing together. And in the front row, Michael smiled, holding a framed photo of Liam. In that moment, she realized. Never let fear or pride blind you from the truth. Sometimes, kindness comes from the hands you least expect, and those hands can change everything. Months rolled into a year, and life slowly settled back into rhythm. But something had changed, not just in Evelyn, but in the entire company. The once cold, corporate environment now felt alive with compassion. The janitors, receptionists, technicians, the people who had always gone unnoticed, were now treated as the heartbeat of Kensington Industries. Evelyn made sure of it. Every month, she personally visited the maintenance staff. She sat with them during lunch breaks, listened to their stories, laughed with them. The woman who once lived behind glass walls had finally stepped into the world she'd built. But perhaps the biggest change wasn't in the office, it was in her heart. She had spent years chasing power, perfection, and profits. Yet, in the quiet moments, when she watched her son sleep peacefully after his recovery, she realized that true wealth wasn't in numbers or titles, it was in people. One afternoon, as she walked through the company garden, she saw Michael planting new flowers near the entrance. "Hey, boss," he said with a grin, wiping his hands on his uniform, though now, it had a badge that read Facilities Director. Evelyn smiled. "Hey yourself. Those look beautiful." "Just trying to make the place a little brighter," he said. She looked around, the sunlight catching on the petals, employees passing by with laughter instead of tension, and nodded. "You already have, Michael." He chuckled, glancing up at her. "You know, funny thing, I almost didn't come back. Thought I'd just disappear quietly. But then, my daughter said something that made me think twice." "What did she say?" "She said, 'Dad, maybe God let that happen so someone important could learn what's really important.'" Evelyn's eyes softened, her throat tightening. "She was right," she whispered. "I needed that lesson more than I knew." That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Evelyn stood by the window of her office, the same office where she'd once screamed in anger and fear. Liam ran in, laughing, holding a paper in his hands. "Mom! I got an A on my kindness project." "Kindness project?" she asked, kneeling down. He nodded excitedly. "We had to write about someone who changed our lives. I wrote about Mr. Michael." Evelyn smiled, tears gathering in her eyes again. "Can I read it?" He handed her the paper. The first line made her heart melt. "Sometimes heroes don't wear capes or suits. Sometimes, they wear gloves and carry a mop." She looked at her son, then at the skyline, and realized something beautiful. Her empire wasn't built on steel and glass, it was built on people who cared, people like Michael. A year later, Kensington Industries launched a new community center, providing free education and medical screenings for underprivileged families. And at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Evelyn didn't stand on stage alone. She called Michael up beside her. When the cameras flashed, she turned to the crowd and said, "This man taught me more than any business book ever could. He reminded me that humanity is the foundation of every empire, and that no act of kindness is ever too small to change a life." The crowd erupted in applause, but Evelyn didn't hear it. She was too busy watching the smile on Michael's face, humble, genuine, and full of quiet pride. And in that moment, she felt peace. Later that night, as she tucked Liam into bed, he whispered, "Mom,